The Yuletide season evokes thoughts and memories of glorious days of frost, ringing bells, and the magical aromas wafting from a warm, loving kitchen. And yet, the days are shorter, and the nights become long, dark, and cold journeys into a bizarre winter realm of menace, monsters, and wandering spirits. Blackwater Media presents A Creepy Christmas. I want to start off by saying that, yes, I have heard of the creatures that appear to be upright walking wolves called Dogmen. As far-fetched as some people think it is that these things exist, I tended to believe that they could actually be real, but never really imagined that I would ever see one. So, let me tell you about something that happened on Christmas Eve 5 years ago. My wife and I live in Atlanta, but we own some property in South Georgia. We even have a little place down there that we use as a kind of retreat from the city once or twice a year. Now let me explain something to you. Our property in general, and the house in particular, sit right up against the Dixon Memorial State Forest, which is 35,000 acres of serious, deep woodland. In turn, the forest is positioned on the northwest side of the Okefenokee National Wildlife Refuge. In other words, I'm talking about the very definition of the word wilderness. Anyway, a week or so after Thanksgiving, my wife and I got it into our heads that it might be fun to spend Christmas at our place down in South Georgia. We both liked the idea of getting away from the rush and tumult of the city for a little while. It would also be a little warmer down there, but not so much that we couldn't enjoy a nice fire during the evening hours. So aside from enjoying the scenery, we arrived at the house after an uneventful 4-hour drive. We got there about a half hour before sundown. I got the cooler out of the car and into the kitchen. My wife started preparing a couple of steaks for dinner while I got everything else unpacked and sorted. After that, I got a fire going, made a whiskey highball, turned the TV to ESPN, and started watching football. Everything was ready by 7, and as we sat down to eat, we both agreed to start working on the Christmas tree afterward. After about 5 minutes into the meal, we heard a sound that froze us both dead in place. It was a deep, terrifying howl that seemed to reverberate and come at us from every direction. I remember the expression on my wife's face, and her eyes were as wide as I'd ever seen them. Mine must have been too. And she asked me point blank, what the fuck was that? So of course my brain started processing all of the possibilities, because I knew that there was plenty of wildlife out there in that insane stretch of woods, including coyotes. I knew that what we just heard wasn't a goddamn coyote. The next thing we heard was the distinct sound of something moving around outside. Now by outside, I mean just outside of the house. Something very close by. Now there were 2 windows that you could look out and see the front part of the property, and 2 that would allow you to see the back, including the wood line. So we went to the front windows to look out, really hoping to see nothing. Instead, we saw something right out of a damn nightmare. About 10 yards away was what looked like an incredibly large wolf. And I mean like the size of a horse. It looked incredibly powerful, and its head was tilted up slightly as if it were trying to catch a scent in the air. My wife stood there gaping, not saying a word, and I thought she might be in a mild state of shock. And if all this wasn't enough, this goddamn thing reared up and stood on its hind legs. You heard what I said, right? We're standing there, looking out the window, and this monster wolf, 8 to 9 feet tall, black fur, and a mouthful of big-ass teeth. But it was the eyes on this thing. Those eyes were enormous and burned yellowish orange, and there was an absolute look of stone hard malevolence in them. We kept watching, almost afraid to take our eyes off of it. It started to walk in a direction that would take it around the side of the house towards the back. We quickly moved to one of the back windows, the one in the kitchen. We got there just in time to see the creature drop down onto all four legs and dash to the wood line and into the darkness of the forest. This thing was so big and so fast we could actually hear the sound of the impact it made as it crashed into the thicket. A few seconds later, we heard the howl again, and this time there was no mystery about what it was. We talked about it all through dinner and kept on talking about it while decorating the tree and sipping on larger than usual after dinner cocktails. These creatures were real, and we talked about how many other things out there probably existed too. Creatures like Bigfoot or Chupacabra, and even the Loch Ness Monster or Mothman. I mean, shit, why not? If Dogmen are real, then everything else is on the table. One thing is for sure. That was one Christmas that we will never, ever forget.